we are going to solve equations now with radicals in them. Okay? We're going to solve equations with fractional powers. Now, you guys already know how to do something like this. If I asked you how to solve x squared equals 9, what do you do and why? Hi, Mr. Kennedy. Nice to meet you. I'm your teacher, Mr. Mester. Did you go to the library? All right, good. Where would you like to sit? Towards the front or towards the back? All right, pick a seat. We're gonna start you off in terms of grades after the next test, okay? But at least you could follow along right here. How do you solve x squared equals 9? Please talk to your neighbor. What do you do? Mr. Garcia, what do you do? Oh, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Sarepta, what do you do? Square root what? Both sides, right? Why? Why does square rooting undo what a square is doing to x? That is exactly right, Mr. Sarepta. When we square root, you know what you guys are doing? You are taking both sides to the 1/2 power. Write this down, please. This is important. This is literally like introducing what we are doing for the rest of class. Why do you just get x? And then 9 to the 1/2 is just the square root of 9. It's just 3. Now, unfortunately, we need a plus or minus, but we won't have to worry about that much in this class. Why do I just get an x on the left side? Because 2 times the reciprocal 1/2 gives us x. So, square root x equals 4. You know what I'm going to say? Turn that into a fraction. Now, what times 1/2 gives me 1? What number times 1/2 gives me 1? 2, the reciprocal power. Watch, everybody. Take both sides and square. 2, 1/2, I get x to the first. Because when we take a power to a power, we multiply our powers. 16. X to the first equals 16. Let's just solve it. It's easy. How do you think I solve for x here? Well, I'm going to rewrite this as a fractional power. What do I multiply 1/3 by, Ms. Reyes? To get 1. 3. 3 times 1/3 is 1. So you will take both sides to the 3rd power, giving you x equals, you might have thought, oh, maybe it's 3. No, it's 27 cubed. What's 27 cubed? A huge number, 19,683. Uh-oh. I have the cubed root of x squared. Yes, this is what I would do. I would change this to a 2/3 power. Why do I know it's 2/3? This is x squared to the 1/3. That's x to the 2/3. This equals 4. Miss Pierce, what do you multiply 2/3 by to get 1? Two-thirds times 2/3 is a good guess. Type in 2/3 times 2/3 into your calculator. You get 0.44444. That's 4/9. So actually the 2 times the 2 gave me 4. The 3 times the 3 gave me 9. It didn't get where I need to go. I need to go to a 1. So change your answer, Miss Pierce. Change your answer, Miss Pierce. What's 1.5 equivalent to in a fraction? 3/2. Why Does 3 over 2 times 2 over 3 equal 1? Well, like the 3 over 3 can cancel, the 2 over the 2 can cancel. Something divided by itself is just 1. This is 6 over 6. Does this make sense? That this times this, when we take a power to a power, and you got to write this down, a power to a power. This is x squared times x squared times x squared. That's x, 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 x. I have 6 x's. We multiply the powers, right? Okay. 2/3 times 3 halves, boom. Now what's 4 to the 3 halves? I don't know. Type it into your calculator. Everybody type it into your calculator. I want to see everybody type in 4 to the 3 halves into their calculator so I know we all understand how to do this. Because I feel like I trust that you do it, and then I come back and I realize you can't graph a y equals cubed root of x function.
Oh.
Division is a fraction as well.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. 4
Yeah, I know.
to the 3 divided by 2. You got it? Beautiful. We got it over here? Got it over there? All right, good. So we just solved this equation. What number cubed rooted squared? 8. What about the square root of x cubed? Do you need you have a calculator? Does that work? Doesn't work? I'll get you one. It's just 3 over 2. Exactly right. Mr. Quinn, this is x to the 3 halves. So, how do I know? Because it's x cubed square rooted. It's x cubed to the 1/2. That's x to the 3 halves. Most of us were good about this. Now, we need to get x by itself. What do you think you do to both sides? Miss Arbogast. So it's not multiplying, it's taking both sides to a power. This is very important. We are not multiplying 27 by, what was the number again? 2/3. We are not multiplying by 2/3, we are taking both sides to the 2/3 power. Because 3 halves times 2/3 is 1. There you go, that's x by itself. Everybody figure out what 27 to the 2/3 is. Okay, so here's the key. Let's go to like this page here. I got x plus 12 to the 2/3 equals 9. Whenever you want to get rid of a power, we will take both sides to the reciprocal power. Okay? What do you mean reciprocal? I mean like the flipped power, because a number times itself flipped is 1. 2, 1/2 times 2, 1. 1/3 times 3, 1. 2/3 times 3 halves, 1. 3 halves times 2/3, 1. Okay? You just take that number, flip it, and when you multiply those two things together, you always get 1. Okay? We will either start with a power that's isolated, like this situation. Here we have 2/3, that's like it. Okay? We will take both sides to the 3 halves power so that I can get rid of that 2/3 power. Well, that means I need to take 9 to the 3 halves. What is 9 to the 3 halves? Everybody do it if you haven't done it yet. We're on the second page in the middle to the right. What? What is it, Mr. Clark? 27. Well, this 2/3, 3 halves are gone, but it leaves me x plus 12. Well, now I don't have any powers anymore. I don't have to worry. I can just subtract 12. to isolate the x, to undo what this 12 is doing to x, to get our hero x by itself. He likes to be by himself. He doesn't like anybody bothering him. Now let's go back to the first page. If a root, if a fractional power, if something that is a power is bothering x, but there's other stuff around it, we need to isolate the power first. This is just like if I solve the equation 2x equals 8 or 2x squared equals 8. You got to divide by 2 first, right? You get x squared equals 4. Then you take both sides of the 1/2 power. Well, this is the same thing here. I have a bunch of stuff underneath my square root. You would divide both sides by 2 to get rid of this 2. Now, this 2 is just going to go away. It's not going to have to divide anything else by 2. If there's somebody out there, I'm going to kick them in the chest. This is root x plus 2 equals 4. All right, good. Now, this is x plus 2 to the 1/2 equals 4. What do I do to both sides to get rid of that square root? What do I do to both sides to get rid of that 1/2 power? Everybody tell your neighbor right now. What do you do?
Times 2. Or not 2, but 2 over 1, I guess.
You take it to the power of 2 over 1. Yes. You don't multiply it by 2. You take it to the power of 2. You square both sides. You could have done this earlier. But I like to show you because when we get to fractional powers, it'll help. Squaring a square root. You just have x plus 2. 4 squared, 16. Subtract 2. X is 14. Everybody do the next one on the right. Do 3 root x minus 1 equals 12. Go. What's this? What's this? What's this? No. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this equals 4. Now, how can we get rid of this square root?
By taking out the x minus 1.
No. You got to get rid of the square root.
Oh, okay.
Let me help you. This is a 1/2 power.
Multiplying them.
Take both sides to the,
Just like,
what's the number?
3.
No, 2, 2, 2. Square both sides. Where do I get the square? 1/2 times 2 is 1.
Why would you square it?
This is the square root.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
This is a 3 times. This is not a cubed root.
I thought it was a cube root.
It's not a cubed root. That's a cubed root. You see? Bigger, smaller. I'm glad we showed both those examples. It's a good example to show you. That's not a cubed root. This is a square root. This is x minus 1 equals 16. Add 1 to both sides. You get x equals 17 because 17 minus 1 is 16. Okay, now we have a cube root. Well, guess what? Get the cube root by itself. Isolate it by getting rid of anything else, whether you add or you divide. Okay, so I added to get rid of this 2. I have 2x minus 5, but guess what I'm doing? I'm writing it as a 1/3 power, and this equals 5. What do I do to both sides to get just the 2x minus 5 by itself? Take both sides to the 3rd power. Is everybody finding this not that bad? This is solving equations just by doing The same thing to both sides, just like we've always done with equations. Whatever we do the same thing to the other side. Equations have balance. I have 5 cubed, it's 125. I will add 5, I'll divide by 2. Please do the one on the right. This is 4 times the cubed root of x plus 1, and that equals 8. You should get x equals 7. The cube root stays. You need to get rid of the cube root. You should get x equals 7. You divide by 4, right? You got to do it on both sides. It's a balanced equation. It's equation equals. If you do something on one side of the equation, you got to do it on the other side, or it becomes unbalanced. How did you get from here to here?
-1 to 6? That's like, oh, shoot. No.
What's 2 cubed? That's why I asked the question. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. I get x plus 1 to the 1/3 equals 2. Take both sides to the 3rd power, because 3 times 1/3 is 1. 2 cubed. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Subtract 1. Okay, good. We got something. What do you got square roots on both sides? What do you think, Mr. Quinn? I got square roots on both sides. I got 1/2 powers on both sides. What should I do?
Can you take the x and take the other side? Or?
Not yet, because of the square roots. What do you think, Mr. Bernberg?
Maybe keep one of the 1/2 powers and make the other one to the power of 2.
Oh, good idea. But I can actually do something really quickly, really easily, that'll simplify. Miss Bagley? Both sides of the power of 2. It's a great idea. Great guess. I love all of our guesses. We are all trying. Because when I take both sides to the power of 2, the square roots just go away. 2x plus 7 equals x plus 5. You guys remember how to solve an equation like this? Yep.
So when you see the ones like the one to the right, can you automatically pull from both sides?
Yes, Ms. Wenson went to the next logical step, was like, you see square roots on both sides, can you just ignore the square roots? Yep. But let's solve this equation. You guys remember how to solve equations with x's on both sides? C? Let's see. Next page. What's 1 minus 2? It's a negative x. This should be a negative 1x. So your answer needs to be x equals negative 2. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I will do anything I want, so long as I do it to both sides. Maybe I decide to subtract by 2x. If I do that, I get 7 equals negative 1x plus 5. Well, here's my x's over here now. Maybe that means I need to subtract 5 to get this x by itself. Well, now I get 2 equals negative 1x. Maybe I divide by negative 1. X equals negative 2. Do you guys do it that way? No. You guys probably subtracted x from both sides and then subtracted 7 to both sides. Do we both get the same answers? Yes. There's multiple ways to do the same thing. You don't have to do it just the way that your teacher shows you how to do it. Skip this one. It's easy. Question, Ms. Reyes. Fine. I feel like you're abusing this restroom privilege. Actually, no. You're going to wait till after your quiz because you're showing up late to my class. Your bathroom privileges have been revoked. Stop showing up late to my class. What if I give you x cubed plus 2 equals 27? Sorry, 29. Please replace this equation with this equation. Ms. Wenson, what would you do first? Subtract the 2. Everybody subtract the 2. Mr. Clark, since you want to fall asleep, what do you do next? You don't multiply. You take both sides to the 1/3 power is excellent, Mr. Clark, because a 1/3 times 3 gives us 1. What's 27 to the 1/3? Good. Same thing. It's the same thing. Don't say that. Don't say that. Well, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say, is it okay if I just cube root both sides? It's like, it's the same thing. Of course it's okay. It's the same thing. All right. Let's get to some harder ones. Yeah, why don't we do this one right here? Do this one right here. And then we'll get to some harder ones eventually.
So the x is the only thing that's considered?
Just the x. Miss England, your instincts are telling you to do what first? Add 4 to both sides is perfect. We always want to remove the stuff that is like the easiest to remove. Adding, subtracting, easy to remove. Multiplying, dividing, that becomes a little bit more difficult, okay? It's reverse order of operations things. I got 3 root x equals 12. Mr. Black, what should we do now? Divide by 3. Root x equals 4. Miss Brown, I have root x equals 4. What do I do next? Come on. How can I get x by itself? I'm not asking. No, I'm asking Miss Brown. What do I do? I don't care. What do you do? How do you get rid of the square root? How do you get rid of that 1/2 power? What number? 2. To get rid of the square root, you square both sides. X equals 16. Do the one on the right. 2 root x minus 3 equals 3. Ms. Reyes, keep your phone away. I feel like it wants to fall away. Face down would be preferred. Thanks. If I see anybody's phone out and being used, it is taken and drop kicked out into the hallway. / passed to the AP. We get to the point where we know we square a square root, right? You don't have to rewrite it as a 1/2 power. You can literally stop as root x, square both sides, x is 9. Did you guys get x equals 9? Okay. This one. Ms. Harvey, what should I do first? You could. It will make things a little bit more complicated, so I'm not going to. Add 2 is a great call. Now, if 3x to the 3/4 equals 8. I could distribute that 3/4, so it's 3 to the 3/4 and x to the 3/4, but actually that'll make things more complicated. What I really want to do is just get rid of that 3/4. Please, everybody, tell your neighbor, how do you get rid of that 3/4? Don't multiply. Take both sides to the power of what, Mr. Quinn? 4/3. 4/3. 4/3. Take both sides to the 4/3 because 3/4 times 4/3 is just 1. What is 8 to the 4/3? I don't know. Type it into your calculator. 16. Look at you guys. 3x equals 16. What is x? 16 divided by 3. Yep. Since it doesn't simplify, just leave it at 16/3. Okay, bottom left. X to the 2/3 minus 2 equals 2. You got it. Good. Just like show this on this side. That way you know 2/5 times 5/2 is 1. You know, we got to make sure we show it on both sides so that we know we're keeping things equal. All right. So, Ms. Villamore, what'd you do first? Good. Ms. Crabtree, bring us home. We added 2 to both sides. What do we do now?
You get 32.
And what do I do to get 32?
Oh, you multiply both sides.
Don't multiply.
I mean, you bet.
Take both sides to the power of 5/2. Yep. And what was 4 to the 5/2? 32. All right. Let's do this next page. I got a square root by itself, but I got an x on the other side. What should I do? Can't move that x underneath the square root. I can't subtract the x. This is a good idea. A good idea is to like move this x, but you cannot subtract and say this is x plus 3 equals 0 because this x is being square rooted. So good idea. You cannot do that. Can't subtract the 3 because the 3 is under the square root. I got to get rid of the square root first. What do you think, Ms. Birch? Don't square root both sides. Square both sides. Square both sides. Okay, here we go. Square both sides. I get 2x plus 3 equals x squared, right? Because I have this as a 1/2 power, a 1/2 power squared. We don't square the 2x. We don't square the 3. I get 2x plus 3 equals x squared. How do I solve this? Nope. It'll go right back to where I started if I take both sides to the 1/2 power. Move the 3 over, move the x's over to the other x side. No, it's not going to help me actually. What do you think, Ms. Villamore? Okay, maybe we want to move the 2x over here. What do I do now? You guys forget so quickly. If you have x squareds and x's, there's no way to solve that equation by isolating x. But there's other ways to solve these quadratic equations. What's one way? Complete the square. That is the hardest way. What's another way? What's the second hardest way? The quadratic formula is probably the second hardest way. Factoring is the easiest way. How do we factor? Oh, right. X squared plus some number of x plus some other number. We remember if we distribute an x plus something times an x plus something, I got x squared, I got a number x plus another number x plus the number. I need to find the two numbers here and here that end up multiplying to get this and adding to get this. Remember that? We remember we are looking for two numbers that add to get -2 and multiply to get -3, because if you remember distribution, x times x, x squared, x times this number times x, I add those two together. They're like terms. And then I have the number times the number. -3 and +1, my friends. I get two solutions, -1 and 3. Actually, I don't. No? Those are good. Who remembers how to solve this equation by graphing? We introduced this. We had this on your last quiz. Please graph y equals the left side and y equals the right side. We'll find out. Please graph y equals the left side, y equals the right side, and see, do we have two intersections at -3, at -1 and at 3? You gotta make sure that's in parentheses. Graph root 2x plus 3 and y equals x. Everybody in your calculators, you should be graphing. Why can't I pull up my calculator? You don't think 3 is one of them? Here goes my calculator. Let's see if we can all get on the same page here. Y equals, clear, clear. I got root. I'm going to use the square root whenever I can. Actually, nicely moves it underneath here. But for the cube root, I can't. But let's say you didn't and you used the 1/2 power. Make sure things are in parentheses.
Thank you.
I see one intersection. Where's that intersection? 3. You know what happens? We have what we call an extraneous solution. Sometimes when we square both sides, when we take both sides to a power, and it only happens when we square both sides and we have like x being squared, we get what we call a fake solution. -1 is not a solution. So it's just 3. Now, this is why I teach you, and I taught you guys, to be able to solve by graphing. You can always check this. Now, for your quiz, you need to show all of your work to get your answers. You can't just provide the answer by graphing. Right, Mr. Stein? Great. Well, let's all do this one. It's okay. Square both sides, I get x plus 2 equals x squared. Move everything onto one side by subtracting the x and subtracting the 2. We now find the two numbers that go in this form, which is the factored, the undistributed form of a quadratic. What are the two numbers that add to get -1 and multiply to get -2? -2 and 1. That gives me the solutions of -1 and 2, only one of which works. Graph and check. We will find only one solution at 2. The -1 we will consider extraneous. To ensure that I know that you guys are doing this accurately, you must show the -1 solution, and then you must cross it off. All right, let's go to this bottom right one. Square root is isolated. We're going to square both sides. The left side is 10x plus 9. What is the right side squared? Nope. Yep. What is the right side squared? It is not x squared plus 9. No. Did you type in x plus 3 into your calculator and square it? Yeah, so we talked about this last class. X is a number. You can't type it into your calculator, or your calculator assigns it a number. So your calculator did 10 plus 3 and squared it. What's x plus 3 squared? X squared plus 6x plus 9. How'd you get that, Miss Abernathy? That's how you square x plus 3. X plus 3 times x plus 3. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 3 is 9. We can't forget this, and we do so easily. Move everything onto one side. How do I factor this, Mr. Rasmussen? Gosh, it takes you guys 2 minutes to fall asleep, and I'm like screaming. It is tough. How do you factor x squared minus 4x? Factor? Mr. DeGeese, you're laughing because you know the answer. That's why. How do you factor that? Sure, you can do that. That's one way. What's another way? What do you got, Mr. Schumacher? No, it's not a difference of squares. X squared minus 4 would be a difference of squares. 4x is not a perfect square. Pull out an x, people. They both share an x. Pull it out. Pull out an x. Oh. 0 and 4. Now, you might think, oh, 0, that's probably the extraneous one, because we've been crossing off ones left and right. 0 is not extraneous. 0 plus 9 rooted is 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. 0 is a solution. 40 plus 9 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. 4 plus 3 is 7. Boom. These are both solutions. So you don't always have an extraneous solution, but actually most of the time you do. All right, pass up that. That's your homework. That was worth a nice little completion grade. Here comes your quiz, as well as your review. Mr. Kennedy, just give it a shot. I won't grade it, okay? I hope you all put your name on this. I'm going to leave up examples of the last ones, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so when it goes from 0 equals, like, and then it goes to, like, the parentheses, how do you get those two numbers that are between those parentheses?
So, like, when you distribute this thing on. Yeah, x times x times 1, so that's 1x. And then you got negative 2 times x, so that's negative 2x. 1x plus negative 2x gives me negative 1x. And then the last thing I have is negative 2 times 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So I do a number puzzle where I'm looking for two numbers that add to get negative 1, the middle term, because those are the two like terms that combine. And then they multiply to get this negative 2. Okay? Those are the two numbers that go in here and here. It's like a number puzzle you have to figure out yourself. Is your name on this? Bless you. Here's the review. There will be a review video up on my website for you to watch for explanations on why the answers are what they are. There will also be a key up on my website so you can just check answers. I'm leaving this up so that you can see how we did these questions. Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm still doing this right or not. Oh.
All right. So here's your problem here. That 3 there is not being multiplied. That 3 is like in the square root. It's called a cube root. What a cube root is a fractional power. So this is a 1/3 power that I want to get rid of. This is when we take both sides to the number that gets multiplied by that to get 1. So I'm not going to divide by 3. I'm going to take both sides to the 3rd power. Okay? And then that gets rid of that 1/3. I know every single answer we've done so far has been a whole number, but yes, there will be a decimal answer, like a 0.5 for one of the questions. One of the questions has a 0.5. So maybe that helps confirm that you know what's going on.